Imagine interacting with your digital world without touching a screen, tapping a keyboard, or even speaking aloud. What if you could control a device with just the subtle intention of a movement, a mere whisper from your muscles? Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a truly fascinating development, a new non-invasive neuromotor interface. Think of it as a wristband that reads the electrical signals directly from your muscles. Our mission today is to unpack how this groundbreaking technology works, what it can actually do right now, and what it means for the future of human-computer interaction, especially when you're on the go or need more accessible ways to connect with your tech. We're pulling back the curtain on a Nature article titled "A Generic Non-Invasive Neuromotor Interface for Human-Computer Interaction" from researchers Patrick Kaifosh, Thomas R. Reardon, and CTRL Labs at Reality Labs. And this isn't just about cool new gadgets, it's really about understanding the next frontier of intuitive interaction, how we might seamlessly integrate with our devices in ways we've only dreamed of. Get ready to maybe rethink how you'll interact with the world. So the first question, I guess, is why? Why do we even need a new input method? We've got keyboards, mice, touch screens. What's the fundamental problem this technology is aiming to solve?
Well, yeah, it's a fair question.
Mhm.
What the sources highlight is that those conventional methods, the
Mm.
keyboard, the mouse, they're actually quite limiting, especially when you're not sitting at a desk. Think about those on-the-go scenarios the paper mentions. You often need to physically interact with the device, hold it, touch it.
Right, you need your hands, you need a surface, maybe.
Exactly. And even current gesture-based systems, the ones using cameras or sensors, they try to break free, but they really struggle in the real world.
Struggle how? Like if my hand is covered or the lighting isn't perfect?
Precisely. The paper notes, they perform well only for unobscured movements. So yeah, problems with occlusion, something blocking the view, or bad lighting, or even very small, subtle movements,
Hmm.
you can completely throw those systems off.
Okay. And then there's the sort of sci-fi dream of brain-computer interfaces, BCIs.
Right, BCIs, for a long time getting like high bandwidth communication, lots of data flow. That's meant invasive interfaces. You're talking
Mm.
neurosurgery, bespoke decoders designed for just one person. Obviously not practical for most people.
Okay, so not really a consumer thing yet. What about non-invasive BCIs, like the EEG caps?
Yeah, those exist, but they often have a low signal-to-noise ratio. The signals are kind of messy, hard to interpret reliably, and they can require a lengthy setup, putting on gels, placing electrodes carefully. Again, not ideal for quick everyday use.
Yeah.
So the underlying challenge, the real nut to crack, has been balancing portability, throughput, how much information you can actually input, and accessibility. A major hurdle, as the paper puts it, has been developing interfaces that generalize across populations without needing constant per-person or session-to-session calibration. You want something that just works for everyone every time.
Okay, so that sets the stage. Conventional methods are limiting, cameras struggle, BCIs have these major hurdles. How exactly are these researchers tackling these complex challenges? What is this new interface? What's the core idea?
So the breakthrough here is focusing on an alternative, non-invasive approach. It's called surface electromyography, or sEMG for short.
sEMG.
Electromyography. It basically means they are reading out the electrical signals from muscles. Not the brain directly, but the signals the brain sends to the muscles.
Ah, okay. So reading the muscle whispers I mentioned earlier.
Exactly. And what's really special about sEMG compared to, say, those camera systems?
Yeah, what's the advantage?
Well, the big one is it offers a high signal-to-noise ratio. It's like the muscle itself acts as an amplifier for the neural signal. So you get a much cleaner signal compared to, say, EEG read from the scalp.
Right, less static.
Much less static.
And
And clarity allows for what they call real-time single-trial gesture decoding. It can understand subtle muscle activations instantly. And crucially, it's not subject to problems that vex computer vision-based approaches.
there's occlusion, lighting.
Doesn't matter. Your hand could be under a table, in your pocket, low light. The muscle signals are still there, so readable.
Yeah.
It also works for gestures with minimal actual movement.
Okay, that sounds pretty powerful. But you hear sEMG, and maybe you think of like medical devices or complex prosthetics. Hasn't this been around?
It has, yeah. sEMG isn't brand new. It's used in clinics for prosthetics control.
Mm.
But past systems had major limitations for, like, consumer use.
Like what? What were the roadblocks?
Well, historically, they were often encumbered with wires, which is obviously clumsy. They're often placed over uncomfortable locations on the body, like maybe the forearm muscle belly. Plus, they suffered from poor robustness across postures, meaning if you moved your arm, the signal might change or get lost. And electrode displacement, the sensor shifting slightly could mess things up.
Okay, sounds finicky.
Very finicky. But the biggest roadblock for wide-scale use was a lack of both cross-session and cross-user generalization.
Hmm.
They just couldn't get it to work reliably for different people, or even for the same person. If they took the device off and put it back on later, you'd often have to recalibrate constantly.
Right. So what did these researchers do differently? How did they crack that?
They developed what they call the sEMG RD wristband. It's a highly sensitive, easily donned sEMG wristband designed specifically to be worn on the wrist.
The wrist. Why the wrist specifically?
That's actually a really key part of the design. The thinking is humans primarily engage the world with their hands,
Right.
right? And the wrist is this sort of information highway. It
Mhm.
gives broad coverage of sEMG signals of hand, wrist, and forearm muscles, but it also affords social acceptability. It just looks like a watch or a fitness tracker.
Ah, okay. So it's practical, comfortable. What about the tech inside? Is it bulky?
Not really, no. They describe it as a dry electrode multi-channel recording platform. Dry electrodes mean no messy gels. And it's sensitive enough to extract single putative MUAPs. Those are motor unit action potentials, basically the smallest units of muscle activation signal.
Wow.
Yeah. And the design focuses on being comfortable, wireless, accommodates diverse anatomy and environments, and can be donned or doffed in a few seconds.
Donned and doffed. Easy on, easy off.
Exactly. It comes in 4 sizes, covering wrist circumferences from 130 millimeters but to 120 millimeters, so it fits most people. It streams the data wirelessly over Bluetooth Low Energy, and the battery lasts more than 4 hours.
Okay, so the hardware sounds pretty sleek and user-friendly.
Right. So if you connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
it's about taking this known method, sEMG, miniaturizing it, making it comfortable and practical for the wrist. And then this is the crucial next step, combining it with large-scale data and machine learning. That combination is what allows them to achieve what wasn't really possible before, that generic, out-of-the-box performance.
Okay, let's talk about that. The generalization. Making it work for me, for you, for anyone right away. That sounds like a huge data problem. How did they solve it?
It was a huge data problem.
Mm-hmm.
And their solution was equally huge.
Yeah.
They built a scalable infrastructure for collecting training data from thousands of consenting participants.
Thousands, really?
Yeah, depending on the specific task they were training for, the data sets included anywhere from 162 up to 6,627 participants. Massive scale.
Wow, and why is that scale so important? You mentioned generalization is tricky with sEMG.
Exactly. The paper reiterates it's well known across BCI modalities that both across session and across user generalization are difficult problems. Raw sEMG data just shows pronounced variability. The same intended action, like a pinch, looks different electrically across different people. And even for the same person, it can look different if they put the band on slightly differently next time. Sensor placement, anatomy, physiology, even just your personal style of moving it all adds variability.
Like everyone's muscles have a slightly different accent, you could say.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. So how do you understand the meaning despite the accent?
So their solution was AI, machine learning.
Deep learning, specifically. They architected and deployed neural networks trained on data from thousands of consenting human participants. The goal was to develop generic sEMG decoding models that generalize across people.
And did it work? Did adding more people actually help?
It did. And interestingly, they observed reliable performance improvements as a function of the increasing number of participants in the training corpus. And the performance improvements followed a power law.
A power law, like we see with large language models, where more data gives you sort of exponentially better results.
Exactly like that. It suggests that just like LLMs learn language structure from vast amounts of text, these models learn the underlying language of motor intent from vast amounts of muscle signal data. The more diverse data they feed the models, the better the models become at understanding anyone's intention.
That's kind of profound, actually. So how does that work? How does the model learn to ignore my specific muscle accent?
Well, the key insight, according to the research, is that by training on these huge, diverse data sets, the deep learning models learn to effectively disentangle nuisance parameters related to band placement and behavioral style.
Disentangle nuisance parameters, meaning it filters out the noise.
Essentially, yes. It learns to ignore the variations caused by how the band is worn or your unique way of making a gesture, and focuses on the core signal that represents the intended action. It learns the universal pattern underneath the individual differences, which is what makes that out-of-the-box performance possible. It doesn't need to learn you from scratch.
Okay, this is making sense. You've got the sleek hardware, the massive data set, the smart models. Now for the fun part, what can you actually do with this thing? What did they demonstrate in real time?
Right, the actual capabilities. They tested it with Naive participants, people who hadn't used these specific sEMG decoders before.
So real users, first time, what could they do?
Okay, three main tasks. First, 1D continuous navigation. Think of controlling a cursor moving left and right, like a laser pointer based on wrist posture. Performance was measured at 0.66 target acquisitions per second, so about 2 targets every 3 seconds.
And could everyone do it?
Yes. The paper explicitly states all participants were able to successfully navigate and acquire targets. Worked right away.
Cool. What else?
Second task, discrete gestures. These are distinct actions like specific finger pinches and thumb swipes. Think maybe clicking, selecting, swiping up, down. Here, the performance was 0.88 gesture detections per second. So nearly 1 gesture recognized correctly per second.
How accurate was it? Did it mix up the gestures?
Pretty accurate. In their evaluation, when prompted with a gesture, the first detected gesture following a prompt matched the prompted gesture with high probability, like 93% accuracy for recognizing a thumb up, 95% for thumb right, 89% for index hold. Pretty solid for first try.
Okay, impressive. And the third one, you mentioned handwriting.
Yes, handwriting. Literally using subtle wrist-hand muscle signals to write prompted text onto a screen.
Without actually holding a pen or anything.
Exactly, just using the muscle signals. The performance here was 20.9 words per minute.
20 words per minute. How does that compare?
We'll get to the comparisons shortly, but what's interesting here is that participants showed learning effects. They got better with practice as they discovered which subtle movements worked best for writing.
So you can actually learn to become more proficient with it.
Seems so. And the really striking thing across all three tasks, the paper emphasizes that every participant was able to complete every trial of the 3 tasks. That highlights the out-of-the-box usability. It wasn't just experts or lab techs. Regular people could pick it up and use it immediately.
That's a key point. Okay, so it works. People can use it, but 20 words per minute handwriting, 0.66 target acquisitions. How does this actually stack up against, the tools we use every day, like my trackpad or my phone keyboard?
Right, the performance comparison. This is important context. The researchers did direct comparisons, and currently the sEMG decoders are generally outperformed by traditional interfaces in terms of raw speed or throughput.
Outperformed. How much slower are we talking?
Okay, so for that risk control task, the sEMG median acquisition time was 1.51 seconds. Compare that to a MacBook trackpad at 0.68 seconds, more than twice as fast. Even standard motion capture was faster at 0.96 seconds.
Okay, so slower than a trackpad. What about the gestures?
For discrete gestures, the sEMG decoder hit 0.88 completions per second. They compared it to using a Nintendo Joy-Con controller for similar tasks, which managed 1.45 completions per second. Again, the conventional device was faster.
And the handwriting, 20.9 WPM.
Yeah, that's lower than even just open-loop handwriting on a surface without a pen, which they measured at 25.1 WPM, or a typical mobile phone keyboard speed around 36 WPM.
Okay, so if it's slower across the board, why is this still exciting? What's the catch, or rather the real value proposition here?
That's the crucial question, and the researchers are very clear about this. While the sEMG decoders definitely have room to improve relative to these baseline devices, their true value isn't about replacing your trackpad when you're sitting at your desk. It lies in contexts where those conventional methods are simply not feasible or practical.
Ah, okay. The on-the-go scenarios you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. The core advantage, the unique value proposition of the sEMG wristband is its constant availability and the fact that it does not require the use of hand-encumbering devices or external instrumentation.
So because it's just there on your wrist, always ready, and doesn't need you to hold anything.
Right. That's critical for those on-the-go scenarios where you might not have a surface for a laptop, or your hands are busy, or you're interacting with augmented reality and don't want to be holding a controller. The researchers explicitly state that the reductions in current decoder performance may therefore be acceptable in such situations, because the alternative might be no interaction at all.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. It's not about being the fastest. It's about being available and unobtrusive.
Precisely. It's enabling interaction in new contexts. And they do expect performance to get better. They anticipate further improvements in sEMG decoding through continued development of user familiarity skill over time, like we saw with handwriting, plus improved models, including through personalization, which we'll touch on, post-processing, and hardware innovations. They also mentioned that gestures are novel and that coaching participants typically improved sEMG decoder performance. So there's definitely a learning curve, but also room for the tech itself to evolve.
Right. And you mentioned personalization, so the generic model works for everyone out of the box, which is amazing. But can we make it even better for me specifically?
Absolutely. That's another key finding. While the generic models are designed to work well immediately, performance can be improved for a particular individual by personalizing the generic model to data from that participant.
Okay, so you train it a bit just on your own data. Does that take a long time, like hours of boring calibration?
Surprisingly little time, actually. For that handwriting task, they found that using just 20 minutes of personalization data resulted in a 16% improvement in the median performance.
Wow, 16% faster writing from just 20 minutes of tuning. That's pretty significant.
It really is. And they frame this personalization as a really valuable alternative to expanding the generic corpus size.
Mm.
Get this. For models trained on a smaller generic data set, say just 25 participants, they calculated that 20 minutes of data from the target participant was equivalent to training a generic model with 14,000 minutes of additional data from other participants.
Whoa, so 20 minutes of my data is worth like 7 times the original training data from other people in terms of boosting my performance?
Exactly. It shows how powerful even a small amount of targeted personal data can be for fine-tuning the model to your specific neuromuscular signals.
And does this help everyone or just people who are already doing okay?
It seems to particularly help those who might not have gotten the best results with a generic model initially. The paper notes personalization disproportionately improved the performance of poorly performing participants.
So it kind of levels the playing field, brings everyone up.
Yeah, you could see it that way.
Yeah.
It addresses that long tail of users experiencing poor performance with the one-size-fits-all generic model. It gives you flexibility, a good baseline experience immediately, but with an option for significant improvement if you invest just a little bit of time.
But if you personalize it for me, it won't work as well for someone else, right?
Correct. They mentioned that personalization causes the model to overfit to the target participant and did not transfer across participants. It really is tailoring it just for your interaction style.
Okay, got it. So generic for broad use, personalization for peak performance, or helping those who struggle. Makes sense. All right, let's zoom out then. We've got this wristband. It reads muscle intent, works out of the box, can be personalized. Looking ahead, what new doors does this kind of technology open up? What's the future potential here beyond just controlling a cursor or typing?
Well, the paper suggests some really intriguing possibilities based on the nature of sEMG itself. Because it enables direct intentional motor signal detection from the muscle, it opens avenues for things current tech can't easily do, like detecting the force of an intended gesture.
Force? You mean like how hard I intend to pinch even if I don't actually move much?
Exactly. Imagine controlling the grip strength on a virtual object, or maybe adjusting volume based on intended force. That's generally unobservable with existing camera or joystick controls. There's also potential for joint control of multiple degrees of freedom more easily. Maybe using wrist flexion extension for horizontal control and wrist deviation side to side for vertical control simultaneously. More complex, nuanced input.
Okay, controlling multiple things at once, more subtly. What else?
A big one is the creation of extremely low-effort controls. Because it reads the intent signal before or alongside large movements, you could potentially trigger actions with very minimal physical effort. This is highlighted as a significant innovation for people with a diverse range of motor abilities or ergonomic requirements. Think accessibility.
Yeah, that seems huge for accessibility.
Definitely. And beyond just mapping signals to existing controls, they suggest exploring interactions in neuromotor signal space directly, which could lead to entirely new forms of control that feel more intuitive or tailored to what the sEMG signal can uniquely provide, rather than just mimicking a mouse or keyboard.
So entirely new ways of interacting we haven't even thought of yet.
Potentially, yeah. And beyond just consumer interaction, think about the research and clinical impact.
How so?
Well, this sEMG RD device could serve as a powerful research platform, studying neurofeedback, how people learn new motor skills by getting real-time feedback from their muscles, understanding the limits of fine motor unit control. And in clinical settings, the potential is enormous. It could enable viable interaction schemes for those with reduced mobility, muscle weakness, or missing effectors entirely.
Like controlling a computer or environment, even if you have very limited movement.
Exactly. Or enabling new neurorehabilitation paradigms, helping people retrain motor control after injury, perhaps. Now, they add a caveat that generalizing from able-bodied training data to clinical populations is still unclear, but they say early work is promising.
So a lot of potential avenues opening up.
It really raises the question, how might this technology transform daily life? When interacting with your devices becomes as seamless and natural as just thinking about moving your hand, rather than actually performing a large, obvious gesture? What happens when the interface itself effectively disappears?
That's a powerful thought. So we've journeyed pretty deep today. We looked at why we even need new inputs, the limitations of current tech. Then we unpacked this sEMG wristband, how it reads muscle signals from the wrist, avoiding camera issues. We talked about the incredible feat of making it work generically, using massive data sets and deep learning, achieving that out-of-the-box usability. We looked at its actual performance, what you can do right now, like cursor control, gestures, even handwriting, and the key trade-offs, slower than a trackpad, but usable anywhere. And finally, how personalization can fine-tune it just for you with minimal effort. So here's something to chew on. Imagine a future where technology is so integrated with your natural intentions, your muscle whispers, that you don't even perceive the interface anymore. It just responds. What new ways of creating, connecting, or simply experiencing the digital and physical world would that unlock for you?
Yes, I think this deep dive really shows us it's not just about a new device like a gadget. It's potentially a whole new paradigm for human-machine interaction. It's pushing the boundaries of accessibility, sure, but also just ubiquitous computing, having our digital tools seamlessly blend into our physical lives. Definitely something to watch.